What happened, Washington? Seriously, this was a season that basically was summed up by injuries, coaching regression, and some bad decisions. Jane Daniels maybe taking a little bit of a step back. There's a lot of things that they've got to fix this offseason. Adam Peters, you got a big offseason, huge offseason. And they have to get younger. There's no question about it. It was one of the oldest rosters. Can they turn that around really quickly? Yeah, absolutely. Some of it too was just a couple players holding up their average. Those are all things that we need to talk about. But with this football team, let's go through the roster. We're going to go through a free agency plan and a mock draft because I do think they can get back to where they were a season ago very, very quickly. There's a couple of things, though, they need to do, and defense is a big part of that for sure. On the offense side of the ball, the offensive line was very good. It was a bright spot this season. Sam Cosmi, when he got healthy there, after a couple games, he really got going and played excellent down the stretch. Biadash, Chris Paul was solid on that interior. This is a great interior offensive line. The tackle room, Laramie Tunsil, give him a contract extension. I'm totally fine with it. Yeah, he's 31 years old. Tackles can play. We've seen tackles play later and later in the NFL nowadays, and he hasn't gone through any major injuries throughout his career. He's certainly a extension guy after this season. And then Josh Connolly Jr., their first round selection from Oregon. I was a huge fan of Connolly. He was my number one tackle in the draft. And I feel like he is really got better and better as the season went along. At the beginning of the season, I was like, oh, a little bit of a liability here. He is moving over to the right side. As the season went on and we got into the second half of the year, I feel like he settled in and really took control of that right tackle position. It wasn't perfect. I think he's got a lot of room to grow, but ultimately, I think he is a guy that I feel very good about going into year number 2, and how his progression development goes will be key. Absolutely. I do think Connolly, though, is the guy, and I feel comfortable about him at that right tackle position. You have Coleman, who can play guard, can play tackle, be their main swing player for them in the offseason, or going into next season, should I say. Trent Scott's a free agent. George Fant, you bring back Scott or Fant, bring back one of those guys to be like that fourth swing tackle. Always having two swing tackles is kind of important, especially if you have injuries and whatnot. And then on the interior, Nick Algretti could be a cap casualty. So finding an interior player for whether that's a draft pick, a free agent pickup, somebody like that to be able to develop. Plus, Biadash is a free agent in 2027. Obviously, maybe you try to extend him too. However, you also have to think about trying to get younger and trying to balance the experience with some young guys too. So maybe you draft somebody on day 3 to develop, and that's really about it here for this offensive line. Continuity, continuity, continuity. Offensive line's all about continuity, and they've got some young talent up on that front. Chris Paul is a free agent. We could talk about that when we get into free agency, but I think we should re-sign him. He's had a good season. Now, on to the tight end room. Some things here that with Ben Sinnott, I mean, he was very much used in a limited role once again this season. He showed some flashes for me. Like, he had a better season this year, and I still think he's super, like, the speed's there. The guy is super athletic. He has the most yak ability in this room, no question about it. Zach Ertz, he really is more in the leader portion of his career. I mean, I still love Zach Ertz, and he's still a good, solid player, and he was reliable for them too. He had more drops and stuff at the beginning of the year. I feel like he was better at the second half of the season. He is a free agent. Could he end up retiring after the season? Possibly, or maybe he goes somewhere else. Who knows? I think they're going to really try to move on and get a little bit younger and cheaper here as well, which would make a lot of sense. You never know. They could sign an Isaiah Likely out here, which I think would be a really good fit too. Likely, Sanat, Bates, that's a possibility for them. A lot of things to keep an eye out for here. I'm not totally against them bringing back Zach Ertz or anything like that. I just think that they're going to be moving in a different direction. Bates is a good number 2 inline guy. Sanat is certainly not a bad blocker as well. You just got to be more crisp in the routes, get more utilization. That's what I want to see from him. So Ben Sinnott, there is your tight end that you're still hoping that can be the guy. Then we go on to the wide receiver room. And this is something that is going to need a wide receiver 2 in here. Now, Scary Terry going into this next year, the contract situation hopefully is behind him, and we can move on from that. It was really a bad taste in the mouth from the very beginning. Maybe a little bit of foam in the mouth, a little of the shaving cream, where's the Jurassic Park and forever. But I think they've got to move past that, get this thing into the full off season, and keep those reps in the training camp with Jane Daniels. Make sure we're all on the same page. New offense coordinator with David Blau. I'm very curious to see how there may be more of a West Coast scheme vibes to this next season, possibly as well. So those are all things to keep an eye out for here. At the end of the day, they've got to get Scary Terry out there fully healthy next year. The number one guy, get him back to what he was. I mean, he was still very good when he was on the field this season. However, you could clearly tell that it took him a little bit of time to get things going again. Traylon Burks, I will say this. I know I've him ranked a little bit low. I thought he played pretty good, and he would actually be a priority re-sign for me in this wide receiver, especially considering the other guys here that you have. Luke McCaffrey was playing good until he got injured. Jalen Lane, good solid like fifth receiver to have going into next season. Debo, I know it seems like Commanders fans are hating on Debo. He actually was okay. He struggled at the beginning of the year. Thought as the season went along, he actually played pretty good for them. It wasn't. It was kind of rough at times, but anyway, Debo, I don't expect him to be back. All right, I just don't think he will be back. They're probably going to look at other options. However, if they did bring him back, would it shock me? No. I just think that they'll probably look for other options, maybe some younger, cheaper. Who knows? We'll see what happens. And I've got a decision. I know you've probably seen the thumbnail. Like, oh no, here we go, right? But we'll talk more about that in a little bit. And when it just comes down to it, they're going to need to find a wide receiver too, whether that's draft, free agency, or both. And then we go on to the running back room here. Chris Rodriguez Jr., Bill Krosky Merritt, or Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. You got Jeremy McNichols in here, Austin Eckler, who Eckler the Heckler, as I like to call him. I love Eckler, but he's a free agent. And you also have to look at Rodriguez is a restricted free agent, and Jeremy McNichols is a UDFA, and that means he's an unrestricted free agent. So we'll have to figure all that out. But I feel like Chris Rodriguez was really good as an in-between tackles runner. He was their best in-between the tackles runner at fighting for tough yards. I thought Rodriguez played excellent. And I'm glad he got an opportunity to be the starter for them down the stretch, and he certainly earned that role. I would bring him back. He's a priority re-sign in this running back room. He shouldn't be super expensive. Bill Krosky Merritt's got to get better at pass protection. Like, that's the big thing for him. He was the most dynamic running back in this room. And if he can improve the pass protection game, then I think they've got a great 1-2 punch with Rodriguez and Merritt in the cooking and the making. And then McNichols, I'm fine with bringing him back, either him or Eckler, but McNichols just a really good pass protector and a reliable guy on third down. So I'm all for bringing him back in that regard, because especially if they're going to run to more of a West Coast 5-step, 7-step drop type of offense next season, having that pass protection is going to be really, really important. And McNichols can help you out in that regard. Ultimately, this is not something that I see them like, oh my goodness, we need to go out and draft a first round running back or anything. No, they don't need to do that. This is maybe a day 3 selection or a free agency pickup. I mean, if they let go of McNichols, a name to watch out for would be a guy like Rachaad White, because it would make sense pairing, JD. And then also the fact is, I think he's a good pass protector too. So you would look at all, he's good receiving back. He would be a nice little complementary skill set in this running back room. So if there is a free agent that I would say, oh, if you want to, go after this guy, if he's interested, then that would be one dude to keep an eye out for in the free agency market and business. Now we go on to the quarterback room here. Jaden Daniels, got to play better next season. And the big thing for Daniels going to year number 3 that I want to see him get better in is in the pocket, in structure, getting the ball out on time. He looked like he was like 1-2 reads and then I'm gone. Like, and I don't know what I'm doing sort of thing. He was ducking his head a lot. And this was some of my concerns at LSU for him. And one of the reasons why I was a little bit lower on Jaden Daniels coming out. Like, I love the athleticism. I love the deep ball. He has one of the best deep balls in the NFL. No question about it. But there were a lot of times where I feel like when things were not going right, he ducked his head a lot and he got really like panicky. And that showed up this season. I still love Jaden Daniels, and I still think he can be the franchise quarterback. He's got to make those plays, though, on time and avoid injuries. And that's a big part of it, too. And I'm not saying it was because of that, but generally speaking, running quarterbacks, you have to be careful. You have to know how to utilize your legs, but at the same time, you have to be a quarterback, too. And that's first and foremost. You have to be a quarterback. That's the big thing I think he needs to improve next season. Marcus Mariota, the free agent, whether they bring him back or not, maybe they get a little cheaper of a backup. I'm all for bringing Marcus Mariota back. That's a decision that they're going to have to make, though, and whether they want to allocate $8, $9, $10 million on Marcus Mariota, or you bring in a cheaper free agent as a backup, opposing Lee, whatever your options may be. On to the defense now, and the defensive line got to make improvements here. No doubt about it. I mean, they had so many injuries, and that was a big problem for this defensive line, too. When you lose Dorrance Armstrong, who was their best edge rusher, their best defensive lineman this season, that's going to take a big blow for you. So getting him back is going to be a big time boost right then and there. Do they need to add? Absolutely. Even Adam Peters said, we've got to get younger at edge this season. Like, he straight up came out and said that. So Hint, hint, right? I mean, it's pretty blatantly obvious that I think they're going to be targeting edge rusher early in the draft slash free agency, possibly too. But I think it really signals getting an edge rusher at number 7 is a very likely scenario. I think it's David Bailey, it's Ruben Bain, and or Caleb Downs. I think those are really. I wouldn't rule out Sonny Styles. We'll see what they do at linebacker and free agency. If I had to put my money on it right now, it would be David Bailey, Ruben Bain, or Caleb Downs. Those would be the 3 big time. I guess Arvell Reese, but for me personally, I still think it would be either Bain, Bailey, or Downs. If I had to take that money guess right now, if we had to take the money line, no, I no betting. But Jacob Martin had a good season. I thought Martin was their best player on. I mean, Kinlaw was good too. I thought Kinlaw actually probably was their best defensive lineman when Dorrance Armstrong went out. Kinlaw had a really good season. I'm not where I wasn't. I don't think his PFF grade did him any justice. I thought he was actually pretty good this season just from watching the games. Watched him. I watched the games and I feel like Kinlaw was making plays each week. So they're signing. I know he got a lot of criticism for Kinlaw during even me. I criticized that a little bit, and I thought Kinlaw had a good season. So I gotta kind of put the shoe in my mouth right there, the soap in the mouth. I think that's the correct terminology or reference from that. But I thought he had a good season. Payne's not bad either. It's not like Payne had a bad season. It's just he's underperforming for his contract. And that's what it comes down to. He's going to last year of his deal. And I do think there's a really good chance that they try to move him this season, this offseason. That would be my guess. Because there'll be some championship contender that says, oh, if we can get Deron Payne into our defensive line, he could be like that final piece for us. Not saying that they don't need that guy, but I do think they're going to try to get a little younger, possibly get a little cheaper on this defensive line, and that would make a lot of sense for me. Other guys on the interior defense line that I would be looking to bring back, Eddie Goldman, I thought had a really nice season and somebody that I don't think would be super expensive to bring in. Shy Tuttle, I think they could try to bring him back as a minimum guy. Same thing with Sheldon Day. Like you bring one of those guys back between Day or Tuttle for a minimum veteran type of contract that goes into training camp to compete. And as long as it was with a draft pick and a free agent too. I think this is a free agency and a draft pick type of thing for their defensive line. They need some help. Johnny Newton, he can't really stop the run. And that's just the big problem with him. He just has not held up. He is a good pass rusher, though. I thought he flashed a lot. I saw him make a lot of plays getting after the quarterback. However, in the run game, I did see him get pushed back. Like Kinlaw was their best guy, and Goldman. Goldman was their best run defender, I feel like, overall in their defensive line. And then edge rusher wise, pretty self-explanatory, as I said earlier. We got to get edge rushers. I mean, just do. Demetric Wise got injured early in the season. He's a good run defender. I think they'll look to find somebody. I would bring back Jacob Martin and then go ahead and have Jean Baptiste as a rotational speed guy off the edge with Dorrance Armstrong with a draft pick. That's kind of my thing there going into this offseason and my approach. On to the linebacker position now, and Bobby Wagner, Hall of Famer, no doubt about it. Will this be the end of his career after this season? Does he end up retiring? That's a big thing there. I think they'll have to get a linebacker in here, though, on free agency, and ultimately need to improve this room. Get some more speed. They need somebody that can cover a little bit better and be more sideline to sideline, make plays, and we're going to be looking at that. And then I think Frankie Luvu would be a cap casualty as well, or a cap cut. And just with the way he played this season, I thought he took a major step back. I like Luvu, really do, and maybe he has a resurgent next season. This is not a priority cut or anything like that, but I'm just saying after the season, I could see them moving on, especially if they feel good about Jordan McGee and also Cade Madrano, 2 young guys. I thought McGee played pretty good in a limited role. Madrano, we'll see next season and what he looks like, but I liked him a lot at UCLA. Those 2 guys, maybe you can find one starter out of there, bring in a free agent, maybe spend a draft pick on this too. That's really my approach on this draft, free agent and a draft pick that they're going to need. And then we go on to the cornerback room where it was a step back. And the pass rush took a step back. So that's part of it too. I'm not going to blame it all on the secondary, but Mikey took a major step back in the secondary. I still like him a lot. There's part of me that says maybe we should move him to safety because his instincts are so good. It's just he gets beat one too many times in coverage, and it's a problem, right? His size is a big problem for sure. I still think he's going to resurge next year and have a better year. I expect year number 3 to be better for Mikey Sanders still. So I'm not like hitting the code red or anything like that. It just he's going to have to show something next season, and finding the right role for him too is important because I think he took a step back on the outside and on the inside. Trey Amos really was the best corner throughout the season. I thought he was really, really solid early on in the season before going down an injury. I think he struggled in the past couple of games, but for the most part, I thought he had a pretty dang good year. I mean, the Detroit Lions game, I think I saw him getting beat a couple of times before he got injured and whatnot. But anyway, I think Amos, really good pick for them for Adam Peters in the second round. He could easily, if you had to do a redraft, I think he'd probably be in the back end of the first round type of guy. So Amos, I feel good about being a starter, and I still believe in Sanders still. Lattimore, where he's going to be cut, that's pretty self-explanatory as well. And no Igbenogamy could be another guy that they could re-sign on the cheap and or put Quan Martin there. I kind of like the idea of putting Quan Martin in the slot. That's my opinion. I think Quan Martin would be better in the slot than at safety. He just really can't tackle. Now, I mean, in the slot, you need to be able to tackle. I think Quan's a good blitzer though. He's got to get better at the open field and tackling. But if you move him close to the line script, maybe a little easier for him. I think more of like when he's got more space in front of him, he struggles with taking angles and he kind of looks for the big hit or looks for the strip and then he'll just miss. And that's something he's got to work on. And just generally speaking, too, in coverage, I just don't know if the IQ is there quite at the moment. And almost why I think he would be better in the slot is just like let him cover a man and do that sort of role, have him blitz off the edge. And I think he'd be excellent because he's an excellent athlete. Like he can cover guys when he has to go one on one. He can cover some guys. He has the fluidity. He has the speed. And that's kind of the role that I would like to put Quan Martin in. So we'll see what they do. He could be a trade candidate too this offseason. Don't be surprised if that happens. But the secondary needs to be improved. We need to add some depth in here. Draft, free agency, combination. Same thing here, safety. This is an overhaul needed to be at safety. I think this is probably, if I had to put the bigger need, it would be at safety. Corner, at least you got some young guys. Maybe bringing a veteran in there. And then at safety, you've got to overhaul this room. I like Quan Martin. I just want to put him in the slot. Get two new safeties. Will Harris. I would move on from him personally. I thought Reeves played the best out of all these guys. I'm actually a little surprised. I know he's a great special teamer and everything like that, captain special teamer. I thought he was way better than Will Harris. And even though when Will Harris came back, they had him start over Reeves, I think Reeves should have been starting, my opinion. But I thought Reeves made a lot more plays and should have been starting. Once again, I'm not getting paid the big bucks. I'm just watching the games and I'm like, yeah, Reeves making plays. So, but I'm not watching all 22 film every week and stuff like that. So the coaching staff, they clearly see stuff and whatever. But for me personally, I thought Reeves was way better. And Will Harris, I would move on from him if I was making the decision there. Nothing against him or anything like that. But I just think the safety room has to get better. Now going on to the coaching staff here, which they've had to overhaul this coaching staff. Dan Quinn, who will he hire as the defense coordinator? That's still ongoing right now. They're interviewing guys and this process is ongoing. I imagine they're going to make a decision soon. David Blau got promoted as the OC now, which is good to see. I'm excited for David Blau. I certainly think he's a guy to watch out for. And yeah, no, I mean, we'll see, right? It's one of those where it's going to be a little risky, I guess, first time for him, but at the same time, could it really work out for him? Absolutely. And I'm curious to see how the new scheme will work. And as I talked about earlier, I think there'll be a little more of a West Coast influx per se with David Blau. And just finding a defense coordinator that's going to be critical. Let's go on to the free agency strategy now. And starting off with the doozy. And this is a controversial one. I get it. And you can look at this two ways. They could just go ahead and cut Deron Payne and then sign Brandon Ayuk in free agency for like the minimum because he's already being paid. And who knows? That might be the option. Absolutely. Because there might not be a whole ton of teams, they'll be looking at Brandon Ayuk. He's super talented, though. That's the problem. Like, I think there are going to be a lot of teams still trying to take a chance on him for the minimum, which would be the option. So I look at this and say, well, you're probably trying to move on from Payne anyway, get something out of him. If it works, you're getting a young player who, what is he, 27, about to 28 here in March. If you hit on that, then you're getting a major steal with Brandon Ayuk to pair along with Scary Terry. And it would just be a win-win it would cost them an extra $6 million. They could work something out there and figure that whole situation out. But for that, it's not that big of a deal. And the fact that they would be moving on from Payne anyway for what, a fifth-round pick? Maybe a fourth-round conditional type of pick at best. I don't think they're going to be able to get a whole ton from Deron Payne. I mean, if somebody comes up to the plate and gives up a second, third round pick, oh, then absolutely. Then I would just do that and then draft a wide receiver. I just don't think that that's realistic. I think Payne would be more of a day 3 selection with where he's at with his contract and cap hit, all those sort of things. And another thing I do mention here, it's more about cash spend than it is about cap. Teams, cap is a accounting decision, right? You go to TurboTax or you go to H&R Block, right? They get this all taken care of. The Washington Commanders, hey, H&R Block, help us out with our accounting. Okay, we got this online tax equation that's going to help you. No, we all those commercials all in my head, but no, that's something that those accountants, those smart accountants, they're all going to get that together. They're going to figure that stuff out. But at the end of the day, it's what an owner is willing to spend. And their budget right now, projected budget, is $310 million. Some owners spend more, some owners spend a little less. Commanders are spending a little bit over 100% of their cap on average, and that's why I'm budgeting in $310 million for their budget here altogether. And then we look at their other cuts here with Marshawn Lattimore, Frankie Louvu, Nick Algretti, Will Harris. Talked about those. Frankie Louvu would be maybe the top one out of this that I would say maybe wouldn't happen. Will Harris possibly too. He's not that much. Maybe they just decide to keep him. However, this is my list and this is kind of where I'm at. And I want to go ahead and find some guys that we think we can help out this team and whatnot. A restricted period, an exclusive restricted period. Now, these are all restricted. Bring back Chris Rodriguez. We'll give him a nice little boost in pay. And then we need to find a kicker. I will say that we're not going to bring back Moody. I think we could try to find an upgrade there. I mean, you could bring him into training camp and have competition. That's fine. They need help. They need help at kicker. It's a underrated need actually for this football team is finding a good kicker. Now, going into the team resigns here, and I didn't bring back Marcus Mariota here. I get that. It could be a little bit of a controversial decision as well, but I just think that we can find a little bit of cheaper option, and I want to use that money elsewhere. And then Jeremy McNichols, I do want to bring him back. And for the contract, he's a good solid running back 2/3, and that pass protection, that receiving element, I think is really nice with McNichols. Traylon Burks, bring him back. Trent Scott, Chris Paul, Michael Dieter. Chris Paul, we give him a 3-year contract. I don't think he'd be super expensive. I think it's more than a good story. He was a really good football player for them at left guard. Even though his PFF run blocking grades weren't great, I wouldn't say he was moving dudes in the run block. I kind of agree with it. I don't, again, I watch the games. I'm not sitting here watching every single player in all 22. I do take some of the analytics and the PFF stuff, but I also take it with a grain of salt. I try to entrust the eye test more. It's like, for me, it's like 60, 70% eye test, 30, 40% analytics. Like, you got to use analytics, but you also have to kind of trust yourself on that. And I thought Chris Paul was pretty dang good out there, especially in pass protection. I didn't see him get beat a whole ton. I think at the end of the season, he got beat more than he did at the beginning of the season. Still thought he was pretty dang good, though. Defensively wise, you're going to bring back Jacob Martin. Thought he had a good season. Eddie Goldman, good season. Bring him back. Shy Tuttle, Sheldon Day, bring back one of those guys just for some roster depth. And then we do bring back Tress Way, their Pro Bowl punter, amazing punter. As long as he wants to keep coming back, absolutely. Didn't bring back Noah Igbenogany. Maybe they bring him back. I don't know. But for me personally, I just like the idea of putting Kwan Martin in at slot. And then we go on to the outside free agency signing, where we got a couple of big names here. We got 2 big signings, and then some good depth signings and some guys, some strategic signs, right? I don't want to go crazy, but at the same time, we got to bring in some talent. Trey Lance, we're going to bring him in, 1-year contract as a backup. Let him, prove his opportunity here to be a good backup for JD5. And then he got Noah Fant. I like this one because I think he'd be a good receiving option for Ben Sinnott, and also with Jake Bates, or John Bates, Jake Bates. We're getting all confused with all these names. Jake Moody, Jake Bates, I don't know, John Bates. But John Bates, he'd be a good, solid backup there, and a good element that they have with Sinnott and Bates. Blocking with Bates, and Sinnott can block too, and Fant gives you some receiving ability strictly there. And then on the defense side of the ball, we got Derek Nottie, good run defender. We steal from the Kansas City Chiefs on a 1-year, $3 million contract. And that's basically what we're trying to find, is somebody that can be a good run defender. Johnny Newton can rotate in on pass rushing reps, and that can be a rotation there with Javon Kinlaw. And then Devin Lloyd, big splash signing, the splash. And we go ahead and get him on a 3-year deal, $63 million. It's a big contract. I get it. It's huge. It's a monster deal, but he's he's a young player, and he's in the prime of his career. You get him on this 3-year contract. You get yourself into a really, really good linebacker. Help out this linebacker room. He was great in coverage this season, and he was also ferocious attacking the football as a run defender too. He's just an all-around beast of a linebacker. You got Kyer Elam at corner. Some depth. That's what it is. Outside cornerback depth. And that allows Mikey to play in the slot and also on the outside, depending on what they want to do with Quan Martin. Donovan Wilson, Brian Cook. Brady Cook. Brian Cook. We got all the names wrong out here. I guess, I don't know. But Brian Cook, here he is. Safety from Kansas City. We steal 2 Kansas City Chiefs players. Let's go. But we go ahead and get him into the back end to be that free safety. Just a really solid player. And he just doesn't really get beat a whole ton. And somebody that can be reliable in the back end, which would be nice. Have a nice reliable. You got to pay up. You got to pony up the dollars. I get it's expensive. $19 million average. Not cheap. But he'll definitely help them out and gives them a solid back end defender with Donovan Wilson with some experience. Hey, Quinn knows a thing or two. maybe can make that work as a safety for this football team. And I put note, find a kicker between UDFAs, have some big competition, bring somebody out there, just go find somebody. Okay, got to find a kicker. And I leave a little bit of money for that too. And they can, that's a little flexible with my dollars. It wasn't like a perfect, oh, I hit the calculator, this on the dot. It wasn't like anything like that. So it's a little bit of variable there. There's maybe a couple million they could spend a little extra here on the budget that they can find a kicker. And then your draft spent too, $35 million dollars of the budget. And then we go on a year two, the roster before the draft and looking at it one more time, highlighting the needs. I would say on offense, going to be more on the back burner. Okay, I'll be real. I'm not going to spend our early picks on offense player. We need defense. It's a huge need. We're going to try to find that. But I will still say maybe we can find some help at wide receiver late in the draft, or running back could be a UDFA late round pick. A center would probably be the one area that I would say we definitely need to throw a draft pick to develop behind Tyler Biadasz, just in case we don't re-sign him after the next season. And they can always draft offensive line. That's the thing. Defensively, these are the big needs. Edge rusher, D tackle. I'm not done. Like, we brought in Derek Nottie, got Eddie Goldman back, but Goldman's getting older. Nottie's on a 1-year deal. Tuttle's on a 1-year deal. I do want to try to find somebody that can be a good long-term run defender next to Javon Kinlaw and Johnny Newton, that to build a young little core there on their defensive interior. But cornerback, safety, I want to still find some help there, especially a corner. We'll go ahead and go into the draft here and see if we can find maybe a nickel for them to develop behind Quan Martin. Remember, Quan Martin going to a contract year as well. So, and I don't know if he's going to get an extension unless maybe he plays a really good in the slot in this case scenario and he could get a contract extension there. And those are all possibilities, but I don't know if they're going to end up doing that. But this is just my recommendation and where I'm at personally. But everyone's going to have different opinions. Either which way, having drafting a cornerback is certainly something we need to do. And I will say this. Another thing would be maybe you go ahead and sign a little bit more expensive cornerback to come in here too. More of a better option, if you want to say, than Kyrie. I mean, Kyrie Elam's not terrible. He can play for you if you need to. But they could always sign somebody else if they, maybe a Rasul Douglas would be a good option for them. And then you have Mikey play in the slot too. It just comes down to how confident they feel. I like this. I think Quan Martin would work in the slot, but that's my opinion. Linebacker, we bring in Devin Lloyd. That's a long spiel. Hey, linebacker, we spent a late round pick on, nothing too crazy. But it is draft time. Let's go. It's time to get hyped up and bring it on. Their first pick, we're going with the explosive monster from Texas Tech, the supercharger himself, David Bailey, Texas Tech edge rusher. He has got the speed. He's got that juice to get after the quarterback. Adam Peters, as I said before, he wants to get younger off the edge. Well, here's a guy that's going to bring that juice, bring that edge to this Washington Commanders defensive line that they could really use some more talent here. Just makes too much sense. Ruben Bain, David Bailey, go get a pass rusher. Easy peasy. Hit the lemon up on the squeezy up here with the David Bailey. Dominique Orange, round number 3. I'm going to get ourselves big citrus, okay? I was just talking about lemon squeezy. Oh, I didn't even intend to say that either. Let's go. But Dominique Orange, going to be the pick from Iowa State. Had a down year. I still think he's a good football player and could be a really good run defender. He's strong at the point of attack. He's big. He's wide and physical at the point of attack. Really could be a great rotational player for them early on and help out that defensive interior. And then we got Chandler Rivers. The rivers flow. Where's Brad Pitt? We got ourselves a Duke cornerback who's going to really help them out in the slot. Yeah, he's undersized. He's really small. And that's why I think he's going to be more of a day 3 guy. But the film looks pretty dang good with Rivers. And certainly a guy that I feel comfortable taking at here on day 3 to help out that secondary some more. Sam Hack, what the heck you're saying? Well, let's go and get ourselves a developmental offensive lineman center at Kansas State. I also think he could play guard if you really needed him to, but at the same time, I like him as a developmental center behind Tyler Biadasz. If they don't re-sign him, then maybe you give him a look, right? Why not? Give him a look. And then we got Aaron Anderson, LSU wide receiver. Thought he was going to have a way better season this year, but for some reason, I don't know what was going on. That LSU team in general just struggled, but Aaron Anderson is a good football player, and I think he can, if nothing else, compete in return abilities with Luke McCaffrey and give you some more help as a rotational wide receiver. I still like him. I still think he's a good football player too. Jack Kelly finishing up the draft from BYU, linebacker. Maybe give you a core special teamer early on and a rotational linebacker, or just another developmental guy, continuing to build it out into that linebacking core. That could be something. I mean, we could go running back there. They could go in a couple of different routes, just depending on where they want to go with this one. But I just felt like, hey, let's go and get a linebacker here to finish up the draft and fill out that room. So here it is, the roster after the draft, after free agency, everything we did. Did we improve the team? You'll have to let me know. What's your strategy for the Washington Commanders? I went after some on offense, pretty quiet, right? We got a couple of free agents here and there. Noah Fant, Trey Lance. We got a couple of draft picks, Aaron Anderson, Sam Heck, Brandon Ayuk. That's the controversial take of the video. There's got to be some sort of controversy, right? Kim Kardashian wouldn't tell me. I mean, we got to build something out here. But yeah, that's the controversy of this video. Let me know your thoughts on that. And then we go on the defense here where we can make a lot of changes. A lot of changes. You start off with Devin Lloyd in the middle of the defense. You pair him up with Jordan McGee or Cade Madrano. And between Cade Madrano and Jordan McGee, I think you can find somebody there to be a starter. We also draft Jack Kelly. And also don't want to forget to mention Ollie Cahoe, his teammate there, Madrano. He was an undrafted guy. Maybe he could certainly find a way. You never know, right? Rounding it out with the safety room, Brian Cook, Donovan Wilson coming in to help out this back end and hopefully bring some much needed stability over there. So that's it here for the Washington Commanders. Let me know what you think, agree or disagree. What would you do differently? Hope you guys have a really good day, and let's go, Commanders. We got to turn this thing around. I know you can do it. Just got to make some there's some key decisions that have to be made, and then that defensive coordinator position still need to be filled, which is going to be critical. Absolutely, they gotta be better this season. All around, their defense is a huge need. Getting healthy, all those things. Next year from Jayden Daniels, and this team can be a playoff-driven team next year very easily.